Hi, I'm Valerie Espinoza, your New Mexico Public Regulation Commissioner. I'd like to welcome you back to another edition of our program. Today we have a very special guest and friend who's very familiar to our community and our state, and his name is Ray Powell. Welcome, and welcome back.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Espinoza. It's a real honor and pleasure to be with you and your viewers today. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. And the reason we're here is I've had this program about 15 years. And what I like to do is let the public know, what their elected officials and soon-to-be elected officials are doing out there and what they want to do. And we're holding people accountable and just sort of getting to know you, those that don't know you, of course. And we understand you're running for Land Commissioner. Congratulations.
Well, thank you, Valerie. I appreciate that very much. The land office has been my passion off and on over the last 3 decades.
That's right. You were there.
Yeah.
And your father.
Well, my dad was a scientist, and he was involved in politics as well. And he taught me that public service is a sacred trust. And now more than ever, we need people like you that are serving for the right reasons, to serve the public's best interest. So it's a real honor and privilege to be on your show today.
Well, I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad to see you back in the realm. Tell us a little bit about what the Land Commissioner position does. We see on our bills, on our property tax bills, a little sum goes here and there,
right.
And we always wonder, what exactly does the Land Commissioner's role? I mean, what do you do as a commissioner?
Well, like the Public Regulatory Commission, it's got a huge and important role here in New Mexico. The Land Commissioner is a constitutional officer, and that position looks after 13 million acres of land, about 10% of the surface area of New Mexico. And each piece of land is designated to one of 22 beneficiaries. And whatever's earned on that land goes to that beneficiary. So the land office supports the public schools, universities, hospitals, Carrie Tingley Hospital, School for the Blind, School for the Deaf, the Military Institute, and a number of other important institutions. And when I was Land Commissioner last, from 2010 to 14, we generated $2.7 billion.
We're not talking millions, we're talking billions.
Billions with a B for these institutions. And what it really, Valerie, amounts to is about $1,000 per tax filer per year that we don't have to pay because of these working lands. And the real key is to generate this revenue for these important institutions while taking care of and respecting the health of the land so future generations have the same quality of life that we've been fortunate enough to grow up with. So the Land Commissioner position, it also is one of the most autonomous positions of any political office I've ever heard of. Written in our Constitution, the Land Commissioner can sell the land, lease the land, or trade the land without anybody else's approval. So we started with 13 million acres of land. When you sell the surface, you must maintain the mineral estate. So we still got 13 million acres of mineral estate. But I hate to tell you, the best, in my opinion, the best 4 million acres of state trust land got sold off, and too often to somebody's buddy, their business associate, their political crony, a member of their family. And not in every case, but too often, which means that no longer is working in the public interest. So that's one of the major reasons I'm running again.
What is the market value? Let's say when you say it's sold to somebody like that, I mean, what's the value? Do they sell it for $1 an acre? Do they sell it for market value? Or?
Well, supposedly, and these sales occurred not 100 years ago, but in the 60s and 70s, and some more recently cases where you put an advertisement in a newspaper and say this will be for sale on the county courthouse steps of that county, and hopefully everybody's done their due diligence, but too often nobody knows that it's for sale except for a couple of individuals that show up and then bid on it. Now the Land Commissioner doesn't have to take that bid, but unfortunately too often it looks like it has been something that shouldn't have occurred, and we've lost that land. So this office, it's critical to have as much transparency and as much accountability as you possibly can have to protect these lands that belong to each and every one of us, that generate these revenues for the public schools, universities, and hospitals in perpetuity. So this, we've got excellent employees at the land office. They're honest, they're ethical public servants, but they need to be, have leadership that values them and again allows them to do their job so that it's done with as much sunshine as we possibly can. And that's what I want to bring back to the land office.
Outstanding. Then you'll be our neighbor again. What I was going to ask you, and I got into, you know, what the land commissioner's position does, but I also want to know more about you. You're a veterinary, and you've been a big influence in this, not only the state, but this community. I know my granddaughter wanted to talk to you about becoming a veterinarian, and you took the time to visit with her, and I find that very, you know, I mean, that's a very nice thing to do. Most people, when they're running, they're too busy, and you know what it's like when you're running. You're rushed, you don't have time, you're pressured, and you can't focus or think too straight. But anyhow, you took the time to talk to her and give her some advice, and I appreciate that.
Well, Valerie, as you know, our future are our young people. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we've got so many bright, passionate young people, and unfortunately, many of them are finding that they can't find a job in New Mexico.
Not even with a degree. Not
even with a degree, yes. So that they're leaving. And so getting an opportunity to visit with a young person is really what makes the campaigning worthwhile. Because if we can keep these bright, passionate young people that love New Mexico in New Mexico, working for New Mexico, mm-hmm. all that money we've spent on education, besides the important point that their families here, they're part of us. If we end up exporting them someplace else, we've lost that investment and we've lost that connection with our family. And that's why, again, I want to get back to the land office. We've worked on, creating as many jobs as we can that allows these good, talented young people to not only stay here and survive, but excel. And we've lost our way in the last few years in terms of really understanding the value and the importance of these young people. So it was an honor to visit with her.
With Vanna Banana.
Yeah.
She's no longer Vanna Banana. She's Vanna
Exactly.
Teenager.
And very soon she'll be making those decisions as to what her career is going to be. And I know she has a passion for helping others. Both four-legged critters and,
yes.
two-legged people.
I think that's how we got in the conversation. She was in the critter camp here in Santa Fe for a couple summers, but yeah, we don't forget that you took the time to talk to her. So let's talk about you a little while and your background. You are a veterinarian, and you have done a lot. And recently, you were telling me about what you're doing now with health and studies. What was that?
Well, in veterinary medicine, there's a program called Conservation Medicine, One Health. And it's a program we brought to the land office during our last term. And what it really is healthy plants, healthy animals, healthy people. And it's making intergenerational decisions so that we're making decisions that the young people that are just starting off in life will inherit, that will make sense instead of decisions that end up in Superfund sites or driving our young people out of New Mexico. It's trying to incorporate as much of the community as you can in an interdisciplinary way so that the people that are going to be affected by your decisions are helping make those decisions instead of having to live with bad decisions. And this is a program that is going on all over the world. Conservation medicine. We had the first in the United States at the land office, recognized as a premier land management agency in the country. When we left, it pretty much was starved. So we want to get back there and reinstitute that. 80% of the diseases, Valerie, that are coming to us as human beings are coming from other species. And that's because we've mismanaged the land and we've moved into the habitat of many of these animals. So it's really understanding the big picture And unfortunately, in my opinion, we have a lot of people that don't understand that climate change is real.
And you do.
Oh, boy, do we ever. And we want to, again, manage the land in such a way that future generations have the same opportunity that we have, but that people can stay connected to the land in a productive and healthy way.
And that's why your experience is important, because you can talk on all topics, including, you know, sort of like the PRC. I mean, you're very familiar with what we're doing there, and that's pretty impressive.
Well, the PRC
with renewable energy
is one of the most important agencies in the state, and unfortunately, many people don't recognize that. But you mentioned renewable energy. That is one of my top priorities. When we left the land office, Valerie, the last time, we had $750 million of renewable energy projects in the pipeline.
What happened?
Many of them got starved off because the interest wasn't there in renewable energy. While we were there the last time, we did the largest solar array, the largest wind array, and we worked hard to get the first.
Where was that located?
Down in New Mexico, down in the southwestern portion of the state, down by Deming. And we did sign the agreement for a 1,000 megawatt wind farm with Iberdrola out in Torrance County. These not only create energy, clean, renewable energy that support our public schools, but they create jobs for our citizens. And we got to make sure that we hire New Mexicans.
Good jobs, high-paying jobs.
Very good jobs. And when we get back to the land office, with your guys' help at the PRC setting the stage, there's no reason why New Mexico can't lead not just the nation, but the world in the production of renewable energy, transmission lines in appropriate places, done appropriately to sell the excess, but also jobs that create, using our national labs and our universities, that create the top scientists to produce the world's leading edge of technology in renewable energy. We did it before, created 5,000 new jobs in 3 business parks.
Goodness.
The Sandia Science and Tech Park, park down in Hobbs, New Mexico, and one in the southern part of Albuquerque, that were paying twice the salary of the rest of the state. So with the help of the PRC, we'll get it done.
Get back on
Absolutely.
track with, you know, focusing on our great state and how much, you know, we can provide.
Exactly.
I mean, so what other accomplishments? I mean, that's quite a bit. I mean, what you did in the past. What do you want to bring back to the land office?
Well, when we were, I have had the chance to serve 3 terms as land commissioner over a period of 30 years. I come back when I see the wheels have come off the bus and we need to get things straightened out. We've worked with local communities, with state agencies, with nonprofits, with federal agencies, and we work to keep our public lands public. Recently, in our last term, we worked with the Oregon Mountains Desert Peaks initiative with our U.S. senators and Congress people to get that important park established. We've got about 100,000 acres of state trust land within that park. Up north, the Rio Grande del Norte, we did the same thing. And in the past, we did Petroglyph, Tent Rock, Bisti, a number of, Chaco Canyon, a number of important national parks, national monuments that need to be protected for their cultural value and their biological value, and for that open space for species diversity for us to go enjoy and for other species to survive. So I want to get back, you know, we've got to move a foot in this country to sell off our national monuments and our public lands. And we've got to say no to that. That's a horrible idea. That's our legacy for the future in terms of keeping the lands productive and healthy. There's no excuse for anybody saying we ought to privatize that land. One of the real worries I have is that the current land commissioner, and I'm not making this personal, has made it very public. That's not your nature. No, has made it very public. We ought to bring these federal public lands back to the state, back to the land office. We can't afford to take care of those lands. One forest fire would wipe out our budget, which is now being paid by the federal government. But again, the land commissioner can sell the land, lease the land, or trade the land. So I fear if you brought that federal land back to the land office, it would be sold off very quickly because we couldn't manage it, and it'd be lost forever.
That is a big issue.
Absolutely.
Now, I've always felt that the last campaign was pretty unfair. You can talk about it and just, set the record straight. I thought it was unfair, some of the commercials and ads that I saw related up north in the apple orchard. And do you want to, what do you think about that? I felt it was not, fair.
Well, it was totally bogus, and people learned after the fact that it wasn't true. The poor family that had an orchard out in that area, there was a terrible fire up in
Right.
Hamas, a huge fire
Right.
that burned the area above the orchard. And then we had floods when we had the monsoons that swept
was
through
nasty.
the orchard. It was terrible, and I felt we tried so hard to work with that family. But unfortunately, the family made a business decision not to buy business insurance. And therefore, we couldn't. They I think, felt we ought to spend some of our taxpayers' money that was going to the school kids to help them reinitiate their business. You can't do that. And so the unfortunate thing, because they'd made that business decision not to buy business insurance, that pretty much doomed the orchard, as well as the flooding that will occur over the next 20 or 30 years through a slot canyon that just acts like a fire hose right out on the orchard. It was portrayed in a way that it made us look like we'd victimized this family, and that wasn't the case. We felt enormous empathy and compassion for that family, but we couldn't use public dollars to rebuild their business. And it was portrayed in a very different way on the advertisements that seemed to air, every 15 minutes for several months.
And that to me was unfair. So I'm glad you cleared the air and cleared the record, and you're honest about what happened, and that was unfortunate. And I think that that hurt a lot, and people just didn't know the facts or the truth, and now we do, and that might be important, just to point it out.
Oh, absolutely. No, the land office employees, we were out there with shovels and sandbags and on people's private time.
That was inevitable.
It was inevitable, and
it happened in Los Alamos too,
Yep.
with the
Yep.
the runoff, and
Yep.
and that's what happens after a horrible
Exactly.
fire. So, well, yeah, good. I'm glad. And let me ask you another thing. There's other properties that have been sold, land that's been sold. I know one was very controversial, and you might remember which one. That was somewhere in the Las Vegas area. Do you know? Can you talk about that?
Oh, absolutely. And it was one of the reasons I ran again in 2010. One of the most beautiful places in northern New Mexico, White's Peak, where generations of New Mexicans have enjoyed that public land. I went out with grandparents that had told me the story of going out with their grandparents to enjoy this land, to go hunting, to go fishing, to collect plants, to watch birds. It was up for sale by Commissioner Lyons, who was then land commissioner. And I thought that was a very bad deal. And so we said, if we get back to the land office, we're going to stop this. Well, it ended up in the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, this is a bad deal. This can't occur. And we were able to stop it and bring it back into the trust so it wasn't lost forever. But there are noises again about selling that property. And I don't think you have to be rich in order to go out and enjoy our public lands.
That's right.
So when I've been land commissioner in the past, I've worked very closely with communities and sportsmen to increase access and opportunity. And we've got to do a better job of figuring out how to establish camping sites and recreational facilities. We established a permit because they're trust land, so you've got to charge for anything that's done on them. But for $25 a year, you could take your entire family out anywhere on trust land.
Oh, I was going to ask that. Is that true?
Yes.
So how would that stand true for Echo Canyon? Is it a permit you buy and you can go into any park?
You can go into any trust lands in the state of New Mexico for $25 for the year.
Now, where do we buy that permit? People want to know.
At the land office.
I see.
And it's been tweaked, unfortunately, a little bit. That's made it more difficult to do. But we're working hard when we get back to the land office to, again, honor the people that are using trust lands, that are on contract, that are leasing it, but at the same time to allow our public as much access and opportunity as we can.
Well, you certainly are qualified for for this position. Now let's talk about you a little bit. We all remember your father and your family, and you know, tell us a little bit about you. We know you're capable and what you can do, but let's talk about you personally. You're a gentleman. You know your issues. You know people know you, respect you.
Well, Valerie, I grew up in a family that public service was really looked at as a sacred trust, and that you do it in a manner, the old golden rule, treat other people like you want to be treated. Use as much transparency as you possibly can. Talk to the people that will be affected by your decisions before you make the decision. And I know you do a lot of that, and you travel a lot around the state working with people, rather than sitting in a back room that's smoke-filled and popping out decisions. I know you fought that tooth and nail through your career. I believe the same thing. And so, you know, I'm a botanist, a plant ecologist. I got my degrees at UNM, and a veterinarian with an interest in wildlife. I've had the great opportunity to be the executive director of the Valles Caldera by Los Alamos. And worked with a lady named Jane Goodall, Dr. Jane Goodall, who's got programs in 160 countries around the globe. Valerie, I have no illusions of grandeur. I know that if I'm bright enough to keep my mouth shut, I'm going to learn something new every day from the talented, gifted, passionate people of New Mexico. The key is to take that information and turn it into good public policy, where we work with Public Regulatory Commission, where we work with county commissioners, legislators, city councilors, mayors, instead of this approach that we know more than anybody else, and it's going to be driven down somebody's throat. New Mexico, we have 2 degrees of separation. We all know each other. And unfortunately, in my opinion, some of our executives in New Mexico have forgotten the fact that who we're working for.
Absolutely.
We're working for the public, and we're working for the health of the land. And that's why, again, my passion is the land office. And I really would ask people to look at the office, and any of us that are interested in that position, look us in the eye and ask us the tough questions. And I think then we get an opportunity to really explain what our vision is, what our passion is, why we want to be there. And it's not a place that we want people that are self-dealing, that want to make a lot of money for themselves. We've had enough of those at the land office. It's time for as much sunshine, just like you're doing at the PRC, saying, bring in the sunshine, bring in the accountability. That's what we need at the land office.
Absolutely. Well, I'm very impressed, and it's been good to have you back. And I hope that you will come back so we can talk some more as things progress, because you know how campaigns get, you know, busy, and they can get mean. But I know you're a gentleman, and you're not gonna throw the mud. But it's like I say, is there anything that you can tell us really quickly about, you know, how you worked with the tribal governments as well?
Oh, you know, we worked very closely with the tribal governments. When we got back to the land office, Commissioner Lyons had sued the tribes. They put in a deal out at Mount Taylor that was decimating many of the important traditional and sacred sites. When we got back to the land office, we not only dropped that suit, but we joined the different tribes with an MOU with Acoma, Laguna, Zuni, Hopi, and said, we want to work with you so that we can create jobs, create revenues for the school kids, but protect these invaluable, irreplaceable traditional lands that are so important to your religions, to your culture. and so have great respect for the tribes.
Because
and,
we enjoy going to feast day, you know, and partaking and breaking bread with, we're all one big state and we should be inclusive.
And our lands blend together. Unless we work cooperatively and collaboratively together, then that land isn't productive and isn't healthy for future generations.
Absolutely. Now, if you had something to tell the audience and the listeners, viewers, something, what would that be?
I'd really appreciate their help and support. And if they have questions, please give me a call. And,
where would they find you? I know your number's going to be on the bottom,
yes,
but for
my
those...
website is Ray Powell for Land, and that's the numeral 4, forland.com. It's got my cell phone number, it's got my email. They can call me directly, and I'd love to visit with them.
You're like me, you give out your phone number. That's important.
That's critical, like a veterinarian. If you don't interact with people, then you're not doing your job.
If I would have known you were still a practicing veterinarian, I had a clinic, I would have called you for my dog, Dakota.
Yeah.
You remember all the commotion. Anyhow,
dog.
Yes. Well, it has, again, been a pleasure to have you, and I hope to have you back soon. And as with everything, we'll be wrapping up. But if anybody would like to appear on my program, please call me at 827-4533, and we'd be happy to interview you as well. So thank you for watching, and thank you again for being here.
Thank you for your public service.
Absolutely.